the same. We're talking about Lent this morning with our children, and we're talking about Mass and where Jesus is going. And I have a question for you all now. I like to start with questions because they get the brain working. Have you ever been lost?
Yeah.
Will one of you volunteer to tell me a story of when you got lost? Not all at once. You weren't prepared for this morning.
Bob Riesinger can share that with you.
Oh, is that right?
I was leading him on a trip to Lancaster, and we ended up at Franklin Marshall College, didn't we, Bob?
I don't remember, but I believe it.
I don't remember, but I believe it. I love it. Any other quick little tidbits about being lost? Y'all got a great sense of direction. Well, let me tell you about a time I was lost. I was very young. Not very, very young. I was probably about 7 or 8. There's a lovely chain store. They're very common in Michigan and in Ohio. I've not seen a single one out here, and it breaks my heart. Called Meijer. Does anyone know what a Meijer is? Oh. It's such a wonderful store. It's your general supermarket plus. It's got little pieces of furniture and stuff like that. Not quite as big as a Walmart, but there's a large Meijer by my home, and my parents went there with my one brother and I. And I remember I was with my dad looking at tools. I believe gardening equipment actually. I was looking, and something captivated me. And I stared at it for a moment, like, what the heck do you use this for? I think it was like a little hand hoe or something. And I turned left and right, and my dad is gone. Now, what I didn't know at the time was he was one aisle over. But my child brain panicked, and I just left. And here I am about a couple minutes later realizing I can't find my dad. My mom and my brother were in a different part of the store, and so I'm wandering this very large store by myself as a young child. And you go through those emotional processes, right? At first there's the bravado of a child. Oh, this isn't a big deal. This isn't bothering me at all, right? And that quickly goes into, no, it's starting to bother me. I don't like being lost. I don't know where my parents are. Then it turns into that irrational panic. What if they never find me? At least I'll have food. What if they lock me in and then I get in trouble because I'm not supposed to be here? It was like 2 p.m, by the way. And then it turns into that defeat. This is my life now. I'm an only child, I'm an orphan. And as a child, you go through those steps pretty quickly. But I would argue that adults go through those steps too, just in a different way. And I would argue that when we get lost, it's not so much, even though it's very true, it's not so much about where we are geographically. It's where we are in our lives' journeys. It's where we are in our life story. We get lost thinking, what am I doing here? I don't like this job. I can't work here another 20 years before I can leave, but I need the money. What am I doing with my family? What am I doing with my finances? What am I doing with my life? That kind of deep, existential lost. I'm lost. I don't have a direction. Jesus today gets lost. Now, a big difference between Jesus and us, besides that Jesus is the Son of God, which is a big deal, is Jesus gets lost on purpose. We hear the very opening lines of this, and I will lovely disagree with the very intelligent translators of this text. It says that he was sent out. A better word for being sent out is he was driven out by the Holy Spirit. He was forced out by the Holy Spirit. There is this urgency, there is this power that the Holy Spirit pushes Jesus out into the wilderness, pushes Jesus out into the unknown, where it is wild, where it is unsafe, where it is barren and desolate. The Holy Spirit drives Jesus out into this place. And Jesus was just freshly baptized. The text immediately preceding this is John baptizing Jesus in the Jordan River. The heavens open up. You hear the voice of God saying, "This is my Son, with whom I am well pleased." Next slide. And then the Holy Spirit drives Jesus into this place of unknown, into this place of scarcity, where there isn't enough food, where there isn't enough place to rest, where there isn't enough safety from the wild animals. And to complicate it even more, the animals are the least of Jesus' worry, because Jesus encounters the evil one, the devil, Satan, which means accuser, the one who holds us accountable to our sin, the power of death itself. And Jesus wrestles in weakness from fasting in this unsafe place of scarcity, of barren wasteland. Wrestles with the power of sin itself. Jesus gets lost in a real and powerful way, in order to fight the devil on the devil's own territory. Because you and I know that when we are scared, because we don't have enough money, we don't have enough food, we don't have enough time, we don't have enough health, that's when we can often make bad decisions, rash decisions. That's when we can act out in anger from someone trying to help us. Or that's when we can get crushed by that sadness, saying, "Why do I even bother trying?" When things are scarce and barren and desolate in our lives, we succumb to sin. We hear the snake whispering to us that evil, evil lie that says, "You are broken. You are not enough. You have failed." All because of that stupid fruit. You have sinned. That is where Jesus is driven to. That is the place that our God goes out to meet us when we are in that place. That goes out to our place of barrenness, to our place of scarcity, to say to you, to me, you know, you did sin. You have succumbed to this power. The devil is not wrong there. Sin is real and terrible and powerful, and death, our mortal enemy, death, will claim you. But I say to you that that is not the end of your story. But I say to you that your sin will not defeat you, because I went out to where sin is the most powerful and I beat it. I went out to that place of scarcity in your life, that place where you say, "Jesus, I don't have enough." And Jesus says, "It doesn't matter, because I am enough." Jesus goes out to us in our place when we are afraid and says, "You don't have to be claimed by this, because I took it all on me. I took it all into my own heart, into the pierced hands and feet and side, and I let it all out for you." And this is a promise and a guarantee. So this morning, as we go about our lives, as we figure out where our roadmaps intersect, where our stories converge. We hear today God saying to us that our story and God's story have been intertwined. And not only in the places of strength when we can say words I'm not supposed to say, with joy and thanksgiving when things are going well and there seems to be plenty for all. God meets us there and dances with us, but also in the wilderness of our lives. In that place where you don't feel like you got it figured out, where you feel lost, where you feel like you're not enough, God comes in and says, I am enough for you and for all people, forever. That is what Lent is about. That is what our journeys are about. Not that we never get lost, because we will. Not that we will never sin, because we will. The power of sin is unbeatable by humans. But we can say that it will never claim us. That it will never have that final victory. Because our God was willing to go out to the desolate places in your and I's hearts. To those cold and hardened places where we act out of anger and fear and sadness and saying there isn't enough for all people, so I cannot give to the poor. There isn't enough food, so we can't share what's on our table. There isn't enough time, so I cannot visit the sick and the broken and the outcasts. God says, I will be your healer and meet you there. And just maybe the Holy Spirit will drive you and I out into those wildernesses, into this world. Will drive our spirits out to be that presence and light of plenty, of goodness for and by our God. That is my hope for myself this Lent and every Lent, and my hope for all of you, that we can feel fulfilled by what God has done for us in spite of our constant messing it up. And that fulfillment will drive us out into a world that does preach words of scarcity and desolation, and we can say, no, we have a God of plenty, and there is always hope and life, and death will never win. That is my prayer this and every day. Amen.